attempt with minutes to spare.
And you know what happens then.
So, it's my point to do something and to have you react, say, like, I could do better. That's great.
I'm like, oh.
That's great. As long as, you can do better? Fantastic.
It's like I've got this. But I would really like to have this bottle of water, which I don't. Oh, let's see if she. No, she's gonna talk to me. Oh, that's fine. And Terry. Okay, we're gonna start. All right, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Here we go. Hine matov umanaim shevet achim gam yachad. 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 How good it is.
How good it is.
How sweet it is.
How sweet it is.
To be together on this day. How good it is.
How good it is.
How sweet it is.
How sweet it is.
To be together on this day. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 yai lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Open my eyes to truth. Open my hands to give freely. Open my lips to good words, to pure words. Open my heart to love. Open my eyes to truth. Open my hands to give freely. Open my lips to good words, to pure words. Open my heart to love. How good it is. How sweet it is to be together on this day.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
That's some good Shabbat Shalominess. That is great. It makes me feel warm inside, and it is wonderful to have everyone here and to have everyone who is streaming at home. We are thrilled to have you here. And just as a reminder, of course, we have all of our prayers on the screen, but we also have prayer books. And if you find that you want to use your prayer book, which is underneath your seats, you can use your prayer book and follow along. And the pagination is on the screen, so if you somehow get lost, which has never happened ever before, you'd be the first person in a service to get lost. I'm totally kidding. That's my sense of humor. You can just look at the screen and know exactly where we are. Just follow along. we are thrilled to have you here, and I have to say that it is so beautiful outside. When I was interviewing to come to Charlotte 5.5 years ago, I was told that in fact this kind of season did exist in Charlotte. I was told about how beautiful it was, about the budding trees and the leaves and the blooming, and I was told that it is spectacular. And the truth is, it has been so beautiful to go outside and to see spring coming into action. And as we look towards the rebirth and the renewal of this season, it is, I think, a natural inclination to sort of realize that there must be some type of balance that has to exist between winter and spring and rebirth, some type of balance to just revel in the beauty of it all. Because there's so many things in life that knock us around, that mix us up, that leave us unsettled. And sometimes we are thrown off balance by joyful surprises and spectacular sensations and wondrous events. And at other times, our equilibrium is upset from far-off wars and fear and pain and challenging encounters and difficult situations. And sometimes it is just the natural flow of what a single day requires that perhaps knocks us off center just a little. So I want to remind you that you have given yourself a gift tonight. You've given yourself a gift. It's a gift of Shabbat, of finding some balance at the end of the week. It is a practice of lighting candles and blessing wine or grape juice, Asher, okay? It's a motion that is sometimes subtle and sometimes grand. And it is always about connecting with what is going on in our hearts and connecting with those that we love. You've given yourself a gift to be right here or wherever you are at home. And so it is with that gift and with incredible joy that we welcome Asher Schreibman to bring forward his family up to the Bema to, in connection with generations of this congregation with lots of joy and love, to welcome in Shabbat with the lighting of the candles and Kiddush. Mayor, are you ready? Yeah. Okay. It's okay. You were doing other things that were important. Okay, go.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'chag v'ner shel Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzavanu v'shabbat kosho v'ahava v'ratzon Hidilanu Zikaron Lemasei Bereshit Ki Hu Yom Tehila Lamigrae Kodesh Zeker L'Siyat Mitzrayim Kivanu Barhavta V'atanu Kidashta Mikol Ha'amim V'shabbat
L'chaim. Asher, Mazel Tov in advance of tomorrow morning when you lead our congregation in worship and prayer, and you're teaching us an awesome lesson about this week's Torah portion. And I said to Asher earlier, we are two Ashers that share the same Torah portion 30 years apart. I know. It's from the book of Leviticus, and it's tough. So we are looking forward to hearing from you and learning from you tomorrow. Mazel Tov to you and to your family and to the generations of your family who are here celebrating tonight. I'm going to invite forward Alan Margulis to come forward. And I'm going to ask the congregation to please rise. You're no strangers to blessings in our congregation, but this blessing is for your 80th birthday, which is being celebrated at the end of the month. But we've had to schedule it for now because you're just too busy. And that's a great thing. It's a wonderful thing. You said something beautiful to me about this week when we talked about how you choose the age that you want to be, that you choose whether or not you age. And there is a way that you have gone on a journey, that I've seen you in the journey that we've been on together as rabbi and as congregant over the last 5.5 years, which has all been about a journey of exploration and inquiry and curiosity and fascination and Jewish commitment through and through. And you just have that in you. And you and Naomi have built a wonderful life together. 58 years of marriage with beautiful children, and of course, grandchildren that you are so proud of. And whether they are here or across the country, you know that your family loves you because you have so loved them. And we wish for you in your life, even through the pandemic, you approached it with such rational beliefs about how to stay healthy, but also how to continue living a life. And we wish for you that you live ad mea esrim to 120 years, plus one, of course. But most importantly, that you have adventure and travel, and that you continue your journey with passion and love, with your sweetheart by your side. And so we bless you with the threefold benediction, which is at the center of the Torah. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, may God bless you and keep you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka, may God's radiance shine upon you and be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom, and may God journey with you and travel with you all the days of your life. And may God bless you with the most important blessing of all, the blessing of shalom, of peace, and shlemut, of wholeness. And together we all say, Amen. Happy birthday.
So we have been beginning our services with blessings. Tonight we're celebrating Asher, we're celebrating Alan, but we also have space in our service each week to celebrate whatever the small joys we are seeing in our lives. The little celebrations that actually could be quite big, or the small wins that we're having. So we're going to join together in a moment and sing the words of Shehachianu, thanking God for bringing us to this season. But before that, are there things that you're celebrating this week?
Something good that happened. We have to have some volunteers to tell us. So it could be Asher. Really? That is good. Mayor. Family. That's wonderful. That's great. 52 years of marriage.
Mazel tov.
Mazel tov.
Mazel tov.
Mazel tov. That's great.
Anybody else? Woohoo! It's a Shehachianu moment. It only happens once a year. I mean, that's what Shehachianu is for. Oh, mazel tov.
Mazel tov. Mm-hmm. Anyone else?
All right, with all of that, those wonderful things we know are going on in each other's lives and all of that gratitude and joy in our hearts, we sing Shehachianu. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh.
This Shabbat in Jewish tradition is called Shabbat HaGadol.
The great
Shabbat. What makes it great is that it is the Shabbat, that's the Sabbath, that immediately precedes the celebration of Passover. And there is a poem that was written for this occasion by our very own Rabbi Judy Schindler, and she shared it with me this week. And on Shabbat, we really recognize that we celebrate the intersections of time. On Shabbat, we celebrate the intersections of sacred time, our own Kiddush cups filled, celebrating promises of redemption, past, present, and future, simultaneously awakening ancient memory and creating memory, connecting age-old journeys to today. Egypts of oppression still exist, calling for collective action. Our Muslim siblings fasting and at sunset feasting, similarly surrounding tables for Ramadan, nightly iftar meals, breaking fasts, a month-long moon cycle ascension in generosity, learning, and holiness. And our Christian siblings, embarking on their Easter observance next weekend, celebrating the promise of life after death, renewal after loss, sacrifice, salvation, spring. Muslims, Jews, Christians, wrapped in holy time, bound in hope, community, and commitment, to actualize liberation through daily acts, embodying hope, making peace real, around us, among us, in our world. As Jews, we celebrate this sacred time of this Shabbat HaGadol, as we welcome in Shabbat with the words of Lecha Dodi on page 138.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor v'dibur echad Yishmianu el hameyuchad Adonai echad ושמו אחד לשם ולתפארת ולתהילה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה כי היא מקור הברכה מראש מקדם נסוכה סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה התעוררי התעוררי כי באורך קומי אורי 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 שיר דברי כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה גם בשמחה ובצהלה תוך אמוני עם סגולה בואי חלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה
Our tradition tells us that prayer is the voice that we listen to when what the universe is saying to us. And Martin Buber calls this God singing within us. The prayer is our question, and in order to hear the answer, we listen to the voice that is within.
Yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai. Open my eyes to truth, open my hands to give freely, open my lips to good words, to pure words, open my heart to love, open my eyes to truth, open my hands to give freely, open my lips to good words, to pure words, open my heart to love. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. On this Shabbat Hagadol, the Shabbat right before Passover, the Passover story is ever on our minds, wondering what it was like for our ancestors at that moment when freedom was in their hands. And we sing Mi Chamocha, their song, as we lead into Passover, asking, who is like you, O God, among all the gods that are worshipped? Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nehedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osefele, nora tehilot osefele. Who is like nora tehilot, osefele, nora tehilot, osefele. Hashkiveinu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Spread the shelter of your peace over us. Guide us in wisdom, compassion, and trust. Hashkiveinu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred, sorrow, and pain. Hashkiveinu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Hashkiveinu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu As Rabbi Knight said earlier, we have the opportunity tonight to give ourselves this gift of Shabbat. And each one of us who is here, we've already chosen this gift for ourselves. Vishamru reminds us to deepen our experience of Shabbat, to bring our awareness to the precious gift that is a day, each and every week, where we are required to stop. So we're going to offer the words of Vishamru and then transition directly into our Amidah, which will begin together with the words of Adonai Sifatai Tiftach, and then our Amidah will be silent tonight. So after we sing together those opening words, I invite you to remain standing until your prayers are complete. And you can offer the prayers that are in your heart, whatever they are, or the prayers that are in the page of our prayer book. We begin together with Vishamru. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat le'torotam b'rit olam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת. Yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha.
Continue in silence. In our community, we share the names of those who are in need of healing on our screen. The first Lubavitcher Rebbe Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi taught that there will come a time in everyone's life when we perhaps lose faith with God. And too many things have happened to us, too much knowledge of bad things happening to good people. And he says that at that moment when we have lost faith with God, go take care of somebody else. Go take care of someone who is sick. Go visit someone who is lonely. Go do an act of tzedakah, of chesed. Because he says that you're going to feel God in your hands and that your faith will be restored. In our fractured world, whether it's what we're seeing in Ukraine or in our own country, if it's the loved ones that we have on the screen or the names that we're about to share for the Mishaberach, we recognize that there are so many people who are in need of healing of mind and body and spirit and soul. And the prayer is a reflection to us to make that phone call or to cook that meal or to care. And through us, to find faith in God. I want to invite you to share the names of loved ones that you're thinking about this evening so that we as a community can add those to the names that were displayed on the screen and pray for them as one congregational family. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Baruch atah Adonai Rofehe Cholim. Blessed are you, O God, who walks with, who supports, who comforts those in need.
Me. Mishaberach avotenu mekor haberacha leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishaberach imotenu mekor haberacha avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
We're going to move some furniture. And I have to say, I'm not that great at moving furniture. But we're going to see how well I do. I know. Kendra Thomas is clearly better than me. All right. You're making sidelights. Thank you. All right. First off, before I begin, there's a lot of people who are here. There are groups of people from Queens, and we are thrilled to have you here always for Shabbat. But also, I really would be remiss if I did not mention two individuals in particular. One is Terry Beatty, who is the chief executive of the Foundation of Shalom Park, who is sitting right in the back. Terry, if you want to raise your hand. And Michael Philbeck, who's the director of our security at Shalom Park. And I want to thank them because, for a variety of reasons. One is they're here not because of me, but really we're here in partnership with things that we are doing in our congregation, and also because DA Spencer Merriweather is here with us. But most importantly, they're here quite a lot, actually. They're here quite a lot, not usually on a Friday night, but they're here quite a lot because we partner with the Foundation for Shalom Park day in and day out, whether it is security or maintenance or COVID operations. We would not actually have done what we were able to do through the pandemic without Terry, without Michael, and without their leadership. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you, and thank you for your presence this evening. Shabbat Shalom. And we are thrilled to have District Attorney Spencer Merriweather. You have dedicated your career to service, and you've served as our district attorney since 2017. As the county's chief prosecutor, DA Merriweather has prosecuted violent crimes and offenses, created a special victims team, and helped remove financial barriers that prevented some defendants from participating in deferred persecution programs. There probably could be a TV show made about you. His accolades are many. His education from Princeton and Chapel Hill is impressive, but most importantly, he is, as we say in our community, a mensch. And I want to make it really clear that after major incidents, and even minor incidents too, of anti-Semitism, whether it was in Colleyville, Texas, or in our local schools, DA Merriweather has been our partner, a confidant, an organizer against hate, and truly an advocate for our community. And all of this tonight is actually follow-up to what happened post-Colleyville and with the leadership of Michael Philbeck and Terry Beatty, and really of Rick Glazer, Sue Worrell, and our Shalom Park community. This is a follow-up of really making sure that our community knows more about what's happening regionally, about hate, about anti-Semitism, about gun violence in our schools, and we really could not continue to do this without your partnership, but also the deep partnership that exists on Shalom Park, for which I am proud of how Temple Bethel serves in that role, but also I hope that you are proud of what the Federation, the Foundation, Temple Israel, Temple Bethel, Jewish Family Services, the whole gamut across Charlotte Jewish Preschool, the day school, everyone participates in. It's something unique and special for which we should be proud. With that, DA Merriweather, I welcome you to a sermon in conversation, and please come to the bima. Between two ferns is not, we're not going to go for that tonight, but apparently that's how we got set up. So please come. Yes. He and I spoke earlier about which one of us was going to be Zach Galifianakis, and we decided that neither of us was. Wait here, I'll put that on. Thank you. Here you go.
Thanks a lot. It's a pleasure to be with you folks today. Good to see you.
So, very often on Friday mornings, I'll have a conversation with Rabbi Judy, and who is my predecessor in our congregation's Rabbi Emerita. And I was speaking with her this morning, and she told me a story that she had actually relayed to me years ago about her Hanukkah hairy bear that's in the front of her house. If you don't know, during Hanukkah, Rabbi Judy has a 9-foot blow-up Hanukkah bear in front of her house, and she was being blown up right after, I believe, actually, after anti-Semitic incidents, and you had just sort of shared with her that you were interested in if anything happened to her, you wanted to know. And of course, Rabbi Judy reflected why would he want to know about my blow-up bear? But at the end, then she really thought about it, and she said to me this morning, she's like, that's just who you are, right? Wanting to know and to protect, and that you care deeply. And so I wanted to begin this evening by just, asking you, why come to Temple Bethel, and what in your past makes the safety and well-being of faith communities like ours so important to you?
Well, first of all, it's a pleasure to be with all of you today, and Rabbi, thank you for engaging me in this conversation. And I have to tell you, I frequently try to find ways to enter houses of faith, and part of that is my job every day is to carry the morality of the community that I serve into court, into the community at large, and share it. But in order to do that, you have to be able to pull from the conscience of people who are thinking about their conscience every day. So when I come to a service like this, I have the opportunity to listen, to hear about what people believe is important to them, how they intend to apply those values in their everyday life when they leave their houses of faith. And so when I can see the feeling that comes over people when they're able to be contemplative, when they're able to sort of get back to what is elemental, and I try to take a little bit of that with me for the rest of my week. So then there's the selfish thing. And my faith is important to me. I'm Catholic, in case anyone didn't know that. And a priest of mine a few years ago said that the best way to awaken one's own conscience and one's own faith is to disrupt it. And one of the best ways to disrupt it is by engaging in faith practices of those that not your own. So as I hear many of the values that have been espoused, even just in the few minutes I've been here, it does that. It has that effect. So when I go back to do the job that I do every day, it is with an awakened conscience. It is with awakened values. And so I know that benefits me, and I think by benefiting me, it probably is going to benefit you guys too.
Well said. In Charlotte and across the country, we have seen a rise in anti-Semitism. And we've also seen a rise in hate speech. We've seen a rise of people acting poorly and crazy, like people lost their minds in online forums, but also even in grocery stores and sometimes even schools and shopping centers and neighborhoods. And I'm interested to sort of hear how these issues are actually important to you, but also, and they matter to you, but what you're seeing on the ground and with your work with law enforcement, what are you seeing with regards to the rise of hate and anti-Semitism?
I think there's no question that there is a rise in hate and anti-Semitism, and I think a lot of what we've seen over the course of the last 10 years is because of the way that we use technology, the distance that it creates between, the physical distance that it creates between people. We certainly can use those things to our advantage, but it also leaves us vulnerable to othering. And when we other people, we lose some of that commonality that I was talking about. And quite frankly, between both of our heritages, no one has been othered more than me and you and the people that we come from. And I think that we have seen that over time. We've seen that even through the pandemic, as people have sort of sheltered within their own homes. What we in criminal justice and law enforcement ask people to concentrate on is by building community. The more that you build community, you're kind of raising up, and I'm not telling you a bunch of cops and prosecutors talk this way about it, but you raise up ideas of love and commonality, and that means that someone's watching out for you, you're watching out for somebody else, and all of a sudden the house gets a little larger, and the people that you're caring about aren't just the people who look like you. Maybe it's they believe what you believe. Maybe it's the people who live next to the people who, believe what you believe. and that community gets larger, and all of a sudden you don't have the type of disruption and conflict that we're experiencing today.
And are you seeing in your work with law enforcement, are you seeing rises of hate speech and of anti-Semitism? And what are you seeing today that maybe you weren't seeing in 2017, or how do you see that today?
Without question. And what you're seeing is not we're not seeing and we don't have a great way of recording it, but we aren't seeing a spike in hate crimes per se.
Yeah.
It's what's said around a crime. What are people calling one another when they get into a fight that may in and of itself be criminal? But what sort of things are being said between people? It's those things which are letting you know that there's something beneath. Usually when people get in a fight, and usually when people have some level of conflict, it's people that they know. It's a fight over money, fight over something material. But when it's going beyond that, and that's why I get back to that idea of othering, when it's just, I don't like you, and when I look around, I see that I don't have anything in common with you, so I'm going after you. That's a dangerous thing. That is gas on fuel, fire on fuel, excuse me. And that's something that we are seeing an increased incident of.
Is there something that you think that we could be doing more to work against the othering and to try to, from the perspective of working with law enforcement, what could we be doing to actually help more in helping to decrease that?
I do think a community like this one is already doing the right things. It's just about how you expand it. When you come together on a Friday night, you're already building a sense of community that a lot of people don't have. You are helping one another because, again, you're creating an atmosphere where people are looking out for one another and caring about one another. But also you're modeling that for other communities. And the importance of that can't be overstated. With Mike and Terry, who gave me the privilege of walking around with them throughout all of Shalom Park, and thank you, Rick, for making that happen. The conversation wasn't just about this community, but it was also about who you invite into it. And so that modeling becomes extremely important because it's not just these people that people in my small enclave talk about who have a unique history, but I know those guys. I know something about what goes on here. I know something about this community, and when I saw it, I realized that community was a little bit like mine. It's a lot harder to throw rocks at a community when you know a little bit about it and when you can see the commonality with a community that may not exactly be your own.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you say that because Rabbi Charlie Citron Walker, who is the rabbi in Colleyville, is one of my close friends. I was actually with him last week and had dinner with him on Tuesday night and last Tuesday. And we spoke for a couple of hours. He's actually, if people don't know, Rabbi Charlie Citron Walker is actually coming to Winston-Salem. And we're excited to welcome him to North Carolina. But one of the things that he said is that I've talked to him about is it's pain of being so scared that you want to close yourself off, but also recognizing that to close yourself off actually creates more danger as well. And so that we have to live in a sort of dual reality, which is we have to create those relationships and welcoming, and at the same time be on guard and be prepared.
That's exactly right.
And do all of those things. And I want to thank you for the ways in which you're helping our community to be prepared.
Thank you so much.
Speaking of the sort of the othering, one of the things that's been so concerning, I sit on the superintendent's faith council or faith advisory council, and what has been so disturbing this year has been the amount of gun violence in our schools and in CMS, and it seems like it has been so difficult. Jewish tradition says that a community that when something like this is happening in a community, and it's too heavy for one person to carry alone. And what are you doing to address the problem of gun violence, and how, again, I'm going to ask a similar question, how can we in the Jewish community continue to help address this issue as well?
The first thing that is important is to never make this acceptable. That the outrage that you feel the first time that you hear about a weapon in somebody's school, that outrage should happen the second and third time. Because we're in the middle of something right now. One of the reasons why my office takes illegal possession of firearms really, really seriously is because we know that there is an entire market of illegal guns out there, and I'm hearing every day about 13 and 14-year-olds that are able to buy a gun for all of about $15.
That's terrifying.
It is terrifying. And so when that gun ends up at a school, that's scary in and of itself. But I've personally responded to at least 2 schools where there has been significant acts of violence. In one of those cases, it was a homicide. I'm a parent now, and the news this fall, when we first started seeing this proliferation of weapons within the schools, it hit me in a different way. It can all be really easy to just think, well, what can I do in my own silo to solve this problem? And
it's hard, right?
Well,
like
it's nothing. You can't do anything by yourself. You have to make sure that you're communicating with faith community. You have to. It's funny. I'm friends with the superintendent, and our issues hardly ever overlap. And when a lot of this stuff started happening right in the fall, I called the superintendent and said, we got to get together. And we reached out to judges, and we reached out to law enforcement, and reached out to service providers, and we realized that the people who were missing were the kids themselves. And we've started some listening sessions and discussions about what it is that kids need. And you know what they tell you that they need? Community. They say that over the course of the last couple of years, we have lacked so much structure that it's harder for us to be able to find an adult with whom we can engage. I don't like talking about cases in public, but there's one that I think kind of illustrates this story. Many of you know that there was a shooting that resulted in a homicide at Butler High School a few years ago. That case has been resolved. It's over and done. Of course, there's a young person who is going to spend a substantial amount of time in prison as a result of that. After that crime happened, no one could find the person that did it. Well, when they finally found him, he'd gone to look for his teacher, because his teacher was the person that he trusted. The teacher was the person that he knew had invested in him. And that was somebody who just killed somebody. So when you ask me what this community can do, I can tell you there is no replacement for the continual engagement with children. Because by the time they're looking for the gun, I'm here to tell you, as a law enforcement official in this community, guns are easy to find. The better thing to attack is the intent to want one in the first place. And you can do that by how you engage with kids, how you teach them peace. And so that would...
No, I mean, I think that it would be great to have a situation where we can have as many adult figures and mentors in our kids' lives as maybe the availability is of guns, or more, right? Like, I mean,
That's right.
It is really, that's fascinating. I hadn't heard that story about him looking for the student looking for the teacher, and that really says something about the power of relationships. And I think you're right. I mean, I think that we were talking earlier before the service about how with a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old and sort of a sweet spot of parenthood, but our teenagers who lived through the pandemic have had a very difficult time, and have, very often when they come to Temple, they really want to just be together.
Just be.
They want to be together and have an adult who's interested in their lives and just be. And part of what we're seeing is just, not to overprogram it, but to allow it to be as being sufficiently important right
That's
right. As a Jewish community, you said earlier that our two groups of people have been absolutely, there have been lots of issues of racism and anti-Semitism over the years, but we know that as a Jewish community, we are deeply committed to dismantling systems of racism. And that have, sometimes those systems of racism have also led to things like mass incarceration. And I'm actually just interested what your office and what you can do to sort of actually dismantle those systems. And again, to ask, sort of stick with that same question, and what could we be doing? What are there things that we should be advocating for? Just interested in, I actually don't know what role you play in that. I'm just interested to learn about that.
So I'm part of a court system, part of a criminal justice system that has a terrible history of creating and exacerbating racial disparities. And that has resulted in what is easily defined as mass incarceration. What I believe is the X factor in all of that, and sort of dismantling that systemic racism within our justice system, is humanity. When you add humanity to your to the way that you practice justice, it leads you in the right direction. It leads you into a high likelihood of a just outcome. When we talk about mass incarceration, and many of you guys will often think about the folks who are spending years and years and years behind bars for simple narcotics cases and maybe petty theft and the like. There's an appropriate place for accountability for those things, but there's no question that our society overdid it, and they most overdid it with people for whom we commonly did not show humanity. So the more you add humanity, the more that you see black people, brown people as human beings and think about their humanity as they're going through the criminal justice system, the less likely that is, the less likely mass incarceration is. So now let me give you the other thing, because after all, I am a prosecutor, and it's my job to make sure that I'm upholding justice, but it's also my job as part of that justice to make sure that we are fighting for people who are at their most vulnerable and are experiencing terrible crimes. That you have to show that same humanity for them too. You have to make sure that property that's owned by black and brown people is valued. That the children and fathers and the mothers and the grandchildren of black and brown people are just as valued as well. And sometimes that means not tolerating violence at all in communities that you don't live in. So that humanity is something that is far less talked about in our criminal justice system as we think about reform, but that reform is needed just as important as it is to deal with mass incarceration.
I kept on asking one of these questions, the question of, and what can we be doing about it? And so, as sort of a follow-up to that, with mass incarceration and systemic racism, things that are happening within our systems, what do you suggest that the Jewish community or the faith communities in Charlotte can be doing to actually help dismantle systems of racism?
Get engaged. The way that sometimes our conversation about reform is discussed is it's sort of, that's happening over there. And what I'd rather hear is that that's happening to us. And when we treat this like an us conversation, we land in a far better place. I think that us conversation leaves us in a far more balanced conversation than the one that I think is currently going on about reform to our justice system. Because it's two sides of the same coin. In everything that I see every day, you don't have the high incidence of crime in this community if you are able to somehow stem the tide of victimhood among children. If you are able to expose children to less trauma through curbing crime. 20 years later, you don't have the same people committing crime. So if you care about child trauma among black and brown people, and treat it as if that trauma is happening to you, that it's an us conversation, that's the contribution that I think that every single person in this temple can make today.
I think it's a good spiritual message too. The holiday of Passover, which we're celebrating next week, my favorite line in the Haggadah, in the storytelling at the Seder, is "B'chol dor v'dor chayav adam liot et etzmo ki iluhu yitzam mitzrayim," which I'm sure you totally understood everything I just said, right? But it means each and every generation is supposed to see themselves as though they had personally exited Egypt. And I told my board this week that in one of my favorite Haggadahs, when you turn to that page, there is a mirror that actually looks back at you, so that when you're reading the story about the Exodus from Egypt, and you're seeing the mirror on the page, you're seeing your own face, right? And I think that the spiritual message of what you just said is to see yourself as part of the journey, from whatever narrow places we as a community might be in, to the pain, the slavery, the servitude,
right.
And how do we create liberation and possibility in a promised land, and how do we walk towards that promise hand in hand together, is absolutely a message about freedom and about liberation, as it is about a spiritual message about how we live in this world and in relationship with each other.
That's right.
The last thing I want to say before I say thank you is you have a 2.5-year-old at home.
I do.
And I want to tell you that 3 years old is much more difficult than 2. And I don't know what it's like to be raised with a prosecutor.
I know what I'm
father.
praying for on Sunday.
I don't know, but I want you to know that they it's like Malcolm Gladwell blinked 10,000 hours professionalized.
Right.
And so they throw it at 3.
Right.
It's their professionals.
Right.
So I just want to warn you from the Bema here tonight, between two ferns,
That's right.
that you're in for it. It's the hardest thing.
Thank you.
But thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
For being here, for your partnership, for your wisdom, and for the work that you do day in and day out for our community. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, and thank you for the blessing of letting me be with you today.
Thank you. We're going to rise together as one community with the words of Aleinu L'Shabeach.
Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol, la'teit gedula li'yotzer bereshit, shelo asanu kegoyei ha'aratzot, velo samanu kemishpechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, vigor aleinu kechol hamonam, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
I was recently having a conversation with someone in our community. Actually, you can be seated, sorry. I was recently having a conversation with someone in our community who actually was not Jewish, who was interested about how we give thanks to God for the lives that were lived. And I was explaining about the Mourner's Kaddish, a prayer that we recite at the end of every service. And I explained that the Mourner's Kaddish is an opportunity for us to to give thanks to God for the lives that were lived. And we say Kaddish for a community, for the ways that the people who lived, the ways that they impacted our community. We say Kaddish because it is the passing of the baton from one generation to the next. It is the ligament that connects us from one generation to the next. And very often, at least I know in my family, the names of the deceased that we say at yahrzeit, well, they're the names of the children who are sitting right next to us. Right? From one generation to the next, we give thanks to God for those who gave us life and whose light shines on, continues to shine on in the canopy of life. Our custom in our congregation is to rise when the name of your loved one is read, and I'm going to invite you to do so. We're in a period of Shloshim, the first 30 days after the deaths of Jerry Bernstein, Robert Chamow, June Owen Perry Flick, Linda Guru, Ann McDonald, Lloyd E. Merkelson, Max Shore, and Gary Waller. We mark with sympathy and sadness the yahrzeits, the anniversaries of the deaths of Hannah Ackerman, of Faye Alpert, Eleanor August, Lila L. Batt, Albert Berlin, Thelma Bogus, Vilma Senover, Hazel Cole, Matthew Coleman, Julia Naaman Connor, Marcos Eliezer Francis, Joseph A. Friedman, Frank Alfred Gimple, Herman Glass, Armin Gold, Arthur Goldberg, Samuel Goldfarb, Estelle Guzner, Harriet Moulter Greenberg, Beatrice Harkavy, Moses Monash Hilfman, Robert Hindle, Richard W. Johnson, Cheryl Cannell, Abraham King, William Koslow, Gussie Cossack, Irene L. Kosov, Ira Wallace Liebner, Mae Gesson Levinson, Michael Lickstraw, Harry Aaron Mackler, Wilhelmina N. Mackler, Edward Medallia, Suzanne P. Margolis, Dora Margolis, Helen Melman, Guadalupe Morales, Bernard Nagel, Bessie Oxer, James Parker, Carol Proctor, Elizabeth Raff, Lester Ritter, Maxine Rosenberg, Jean Roskind, Herbert Rothkopf, Mary Schoenberg, Doris Schwartz, Harvey Sherman, Herbert Signer, Morton Silverstein, Hattie Smith Cinco, Ida Adele Slack, Benjamin Smith, Estelle Stevens, Barbara Lewis Waller, Michelle M. Werner, Ronya Wind, Edward Wolf, Victor Yaffe, Esther Zaidman, and Herbert Zorn. We mark as well and remember as well those who died in the Shoah and the Holocaust, our American servicemen and women who gave their lives for our freedoms, those who died defending the state of Israel. And we are particularly cognizant right now of those who have died in the Ukraine at the brutal hands of Russian aggressors. Zichronam livracha. May all of their memories be for a blessing as we rise together as one congregational family with the words of Kaddish Yatom, the Mourner's Kaddish, found on page 598. Yitz Gadal v'yitz Kadash Shemei Rabbah Be'alma divrach urtei v'amlich malchutei V'chayechon u'vyomechon u'v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael Ba'agala u'bizman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehi Shemei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lamei l'maya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh V'yithadar v'yithalev v'yithalal shemei d'kudusha b'richu Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tush bechata v'nechemata Da'amiram be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'charim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Osei shalom b'mromav huya aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen.
Oseh shalom b'mromav huya aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen.
a few brief hodot, a reminder that Oneg is back in the David Silverman Social Hall. Cookies, brownies, I have no idea what's there, so if neither of those are there, do not come to me. All right, but they're going to be there, I'm pretty sure. Torah study is also back in person, and it's going to be hybrid. We're going to be in the Jonathan Howard boardroom tomorrow morning, and you can still join by Zoom. All Saturday morning services are also back in person, and we're going to continue with that. And just a reminder that our 2022 virtual nonpartisan political forum, where we've invited every single candidate who is running in partnership with Friendship Baptist Missionary, I never get the church's name right.
Friendship Missionary Baptist Church.
Whew, there we go. It's a lot of words in that name of the church, which is a phenomenal partner with us. Please, it's on Tuesday, April 19th, and Thursday, April 21st, and Saturday, April 23rd. It's an online opportunity to ask questions and to meet candidates who are running for office, and everyone has been invited. The registration is in Shul Cloud. Cantor?
And a particular reminder that next Friday night, of course, is the first night of Passover, the first Seder. So Shabbat services will happen at 5 p.m. on Zoom only. They will be compact and have you in a position to say Kaddish and Misha Berach and get your Shabbat fix before heading over to your first night Seder. Of course, there is a second night Seder. There are 2 of them for families with young children, geared towards families with kids 2nd grade and under, as well as a congregation-wide designed for older kids and adults Seder as well on Saturday night, and registration is still open.
First time in 3 years for us to be in person doing that.
It's pretty amazing.
Pretty excited about that.
And we conclude with one more melody without words. Here we go. Ya na 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 na, 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 ya na 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 na.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.